Is it feasible, 800,000 jobs in clean energy by 2012?
Oh, absolutely feasible. I mean, it depends on how hard you want to try to get there. But one of the key thoughts, ideas that drives the clean energy agenda in the Obama administration is the idea that investing in clean energy is a job engine. It can be. And the basic reason why that's true is that spending on clean energy creates more jobs per dollar of expenditure than spending on average throughout the economy, spending on fossil fuels, spending on, for example, the military budget. So it is dollar for dollar, it is a very big source of job creation. And that's why, in addition to the environmental benefits, it is a strong source of net jobs.
Critics are quick to point out, though, Bob, that what you call clean energy investment in the employment sector is, in their term, subsidization. You're subsidizing these jobs. And well, if we're going to create a job that pays $75,000 a year, why do we have to invest $100,000 of government money in it?
Right. Well, you don't, actually, for much of the clean energy agenda. The biggest single source, in my view, of clean energy investment, at least for the next 5 years, should be energy efficiency. And energy efficiency is a highly efficient source of investment return as well, because you know, we can debate, but basically the rate of return on an investment in energy efficiency is 4 to 5, maybe 6 years to get your money back. So that's a 20 to 30% rate of return, maybe 15% rate of return, but you get a very high rate of return. And the problem with the energy efficiency sector right now is not subsidy, but kind of organizationally. It's not there. We don't have the institutions, we don't have the intermediaries, we don't have the banking sector ready to support it. So the government's role is really to kickstart this. And then it should be self-sustaining quite easily.
When you say kickstart, the biggest portion, of course, is revenue.
Right.
But there's more that goes into it, clearly.
Right. Well, I think the biggest thing that the government can do in the energy efficiency area is retrofit government buildings. That'll save taxpayers money.
Which is already underway.
It's underway,
extent, yeah.
but let's, you know, we need to create jobs. We need to actually save money in the government. And this will be a big source of job creation. It'll be a source of savings. It'll be good for the environment. And it'll help organize the energy efficiency sector at the level of magnitude that is necessary to then kind of spill over into the private sector. And that should then be a self-sustaining, growing industry that will benefit communities throughout the country.
Now, when you get into energy efficiency, isn't part of that fuel choice, to some degree, the government promoting policy about the fuels we use for generation?
Yeah, I mean, part of the story about energy efficiency is shifting from petroleum to cleaner sources of energy, and diesel, natural gas, ethanol. I mean, those are part of the transition, absolutely. It's true that, I mean, even if we do all the energy efficiency things in terms of just tightening up the way we live and run the economy, we're not going to get efficient enough so that we can operate the economy without fossil fuels, obviously. So we definitely also need to transition to cleaner sources of fossil fuels.
When we talk about the clean energy sector, it's so small in terms of renewable generation for electricity. We're, what, 8%, maybe up to 10% last year if you include hydroelectric,
Right.
which the White House does not include in its clean
Right.
energy definition
Right.
of jobs. Is that a sign of opportunity because there's so much room for growth, or is it a bit of a reality check because there just aren't that many jobs there compared to coal and oil when you look at the market share they have?
Well, the problem with renewables, let's say wind, solar, geothermal, is that right now they are not competitive cost-wise. And there's two reasons for that. The technology is not far enough advanced. Wind is close. The second reason is that, you know, the social costs of burning coal and petroleum are not captured. I mean, that's the whole problem with CO2 and climate change. And so that we, in my opinion, we do need to have something, either a carbon cap or a tax that reflects the social costs so that the price of those energy sources rise. Now, once that happens, the renewable sector right now, in my view, needs to be focused on research, development, commercialization to lower the cost. We're not there yet. That will not be the single giant source of job creation. The big source of job creation happens during this transition when we are at a roughly cost-efficient level. Then we transition to these new energy sources, which will take a generation. It'll take 20 years, and it's that transition itself that creates the jobs. If we can envision a steady state fossil fuel economy where it's basically spending on maintenance versus a steady state clean energy economy where we're spending on maintenance. Imagine a totally solar and wind economy. Just imagine it. There's no new jobs. The maintenance of one versus the other does not create new jobs. It's the transition that will create jobs for a generation.
So are these temporary jobs to some degree?
20 years is a long temporary period. I mean, it's basically, if you want to see the net source of job creation, it's a lot of construction, but then of course spillover. I mean, when you have a construction company, you hire bookkeepers, you hire lawyers, you hire people to clean your office. All of those will generate jobs. It's a lot of manufacturing. Manufacturing will also then sustain itself for if we're going to run a lot of solar panels and wind farms, we've got to create them. Now, there you have the problem of industrial policy and competitiveness, because other countries are already way ahead of us in producing those things, and they can ship them over here. So we need to start. That's where I think where the government role is important, as it is in every other country. I mean, China are subsidizing wind and solar massively. Spain, Germany. Why? Because they know those are the energy sources of the future, and we need to get costs down.
Bob, final topic, the issue of the skill level of these workers for clean energy jobs. Is there a pretty broad swath in terms of the training and the skills that need to be acquired for things like this? When you compare the skills of choosing randomly a roughneck on an oil rig versus a nuclear control room operator, big difference. Same kind of disparity within clean energy?
Well, the thing about if we call clean energy, if we say it's energy efficiency, let's say retrofitting buildings, putting in a smart grid, public transportation, those things, and then if we say it's creating a renewable sector, you basically get 3 times more jobs per dollar of expenditure than you get in fossil fuels. Now, then you break it down by skill composition. There are differences, but proportionally, but because there's 3 times more jobs, there's actually, in an absolute sense, there's more jobs across the board for every kind of skill level, for every kind of job category. That's one of the things that's come out of our research. So, for example, if we're talking about jobs for high-skilled jobs for engineers, yes, proportionally, there's more jobs in nuclear. Proportionally, there's more jobs in oil than there are, say, in retrofitting buildings and public transportation. But in absolute numbers, there's more in the clean energy sector because, again, the trick is it's this transition to creating something new. That's what creates a whole new dynamic when you're building a whole new sector of the economy, just like we've created this whole new internet economy, which started out tiny, becomes massive. And maybe we're at the point at which it's now more or less a maintenance level, and there won't be net job creation. But that 20-year process, when nobody ever heard of what a website was, to people figuring out, oh, there are a lot of jobs there, similar thing will happen in clean energy.
Well, is there a bit of a lag then while some of these workers need to be trained? If you have someone who's going from a factory that is, or a steelworks that's putting together components for a natural gas rig, who's then moving to a plant that is manufacturing parts for wind turbines. Is there a lag in training?
Yeah, there's a transition. I mean, I don't claim to be the expert on this, but I've studied it and other people have. But I actually don't think it's as big as other people have claimed. I mean, if you're working, say fashioning steel components, you're fashioning steel components, whether they're for a wind farm or an oil rig. Now, there obviously are differences, and there'll be detail differences, but I don't think we're talking about, you know, a massive amount of retraining. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm uncomfortable with the term green jobs, because I think they're just jobs, and they're going to look a lot like the jobs people already have. There may be some differences, but in the grand scheme of things, it'll be kind of a small-scale transition that people can easily make.